Hey, everybody, I'm Dave Graber.
And I'm Kelsey Anderson.
And welcome to another edition of Buffalo Brief. We hope you all had a good weekend. We have a busy week ahead of us, a full week, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I'm looking at our calendar,
Oh,
it looks
yeah.
like we've got
We're booked.
Booked solid. We've got some really, really interesting podcast for you episodes coming up, especially later on in the week. But we are starting off very strong on a day that a lot of people are off today, but there has been a lot that has happened over the past couple of days with two cases. One of them has local ties. The other, of course, has kind of international draw. The first, we want to provide an update on the latest in the Top Smash Shooters case. The case was in court on Friday. For a series of items that we're going to talk a little bit about. And then we're going to switch over and talk about the latest updates in the Guthrie case. Nancy Guthrie now into the search in its third week, right, Kels?
Yeah, past 3 weeks.
Past now 3 weeks officially. Savannah Guthrie releasing another video just in the past 24 to 48 hours with another plea and hoping to appeal to the goodness of the good nature of people out there.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. Let's start with the Top Smash Shooter case. We know that Peyton Gendron is already serving 11 life sentences without parole. He pleaded guilty to state charges. New York abolished the death penalty, but prosecutors are seeking that death penalty if he's convicted on the federal hate crimes. So attorneys for Gendron have been pushing to move the trial out of Buffalo as well. So that was talked about this past Friday. Let's bring in John Flynn now to talk a little bit more about this. Once Erie County's top prosecutor. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about here in this case. Let's first talk about, we can get to the death penalty in 1 second, but let's talk about, moving that trial. So, prosecutors are saying that he might not get a fair trial here in Buffalo, but the family members are saying, but hey, we can't drive across the state because New York City was talked about. We can't drive to New York City and get everybody there. That would be too difficult. So when the judge is deciding these sorts of things, what's going through his mind?
Well, first and foremost, the right to a fair trial is embedded in the Constitution. The right for, unfortunately, the family or for the community to go to a trial is not embedded in the Constitution. So first and foremost, the judge needs to make sure that he is given a fair trial.
Got it.
However, with that said, the judge is going to be mindful of the fact that the family needs to be there. The community needs to be there. This happened in Western New York, and this trial should take place in Western New York. And so, the judge has ruled out New York City, thankfully, but that doesn't mean that he might not move to Rochester. He said on Friday that Rochester is still in the mix, and obviously, if I'm the prosecutors, I'm going to argue that it shouldn't be in Rochester either. It should be in Buffalo. The family should not have to drive to Rochester. The community shouldn't have to drive to Rochester. And, oh, by the way, we're going to find enough people here to give him a fair trial in Buffalo.
It's still, Rochester is still considered the Western District of the federal court system, so it still is keeping it within that district. But what I heard you say at the beginning was that really the fairness of the trial for the defendant is more important. Does it literally have more weight than the families and or the victim's right to participate in that?
Well, I mean, it does.
Legally?
It does from a legal standpoint.
Yeah, it does, right.
From a constitutional standpoint. I mean, you have a right to a fair trial. And if the defense, the defense is making the argument that he cannot get a fair trial here in Buffalo because of all the publicity, because everyone knows about it, there's no way we're going to get 12 people to come on a jury who haven't heard about this. And if I'm the prosecutor, I'm going to say, well, that's not true. I mean, I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, but just piggybacking what we're going to talk about here with the Guthrie thing later on. Yeah. And now, the individual who they pulled over last week, this Carlos guy, he didn't know who Nancy Guthrie was. Think of that.
I saw that, yeah.
He lived
That's a good point.
He lived an hour from Tucson,
right?
And did not know who Nancy Guthrie was.
Because I was just going to ask, my follow-up was, we're talking 60 miles down the thruway. You're telling me that Rochester stations, we know for a fact, our sister station covered the heck at, they would bring their own reporters and crews to cover that case and to cover in the immediate aftermath of the actual shooting. isn't the publicity about the same between Buffalo and Rochester, you would think?
It was all over the place. I mean, the top shooting was nationwide.
Of course, right.
You know, and so you're gonna have but believe it or not, Dave, you're gonna have people who just either didn't hear about it. Or that, I heard about it, when it happened 4 years ago,
right.
but I haven't been following it, and I can be fair. And that's all you need.
Hard for us to believe
It is.
that is the
Yeah.
case,
True, 'cause
but
we're
there
right
are
here.
definitely people out there. I mean,
They live their lives
yeah.
outside of what's happening, I suppose.
All right. So say they're going through this jury selection process and they are finding it is difficult to find these people who are local. Then can you move it, or this has to be decided now?
No, it has to be decided now. They'll bring in more people. They will just keep bringing in more people to serve on the potential jury pool. So they're going to decide, sooner rather than later. What the venue's going to be.
They say they expect to call 1,000 to 1,200 potential jurors for in-person questionnaire, a process that takes an average of about 2 hours to complete. Can you walk us through, because is there a difference between state court and federal court when it comes to that jury selection?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
I mean, just from a 30,000 foot level here for your viewers and listeners, it's basically you have a pool of people that show up, and you bring them in groups, and then you ask them questions.
Big room, everybody
Big
together?
room, yeah, everyone together. And then again, every judge kind of does it differently. It's mostly done in the courtroom, and so they'll just they'll keep bringing in people until they find enough jurors. Yeah, that's how it's going to work. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's get to the death penalty here. So first of all, explain what a Roper hearing is, because we kept hearing that last week. The Roper hearing has been adjourned. What exactly is that?
So a Roper hearing is a court proceeding that basically comes out of a Supreme Court case. Back in 2005, the Supreme Court ruled that if an individual is under the age of 18 years old, is a minor, that they are not subject to the federal death penalty. That it is cruel and unusual punishment under the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, and that they cannot be killed. That was a 2005 case. Since 2005, the Supreme Court has decided a couple of other different cases that have kind of, questioned whether or not they're willing in the future to revisit that age of 18. There's been two cases. One where they said that someone under the age of 18 years old cannot be put in life without parole unless it's a homicide. And then they went even further a few years later and said that someone under 18 years old cannot get life without parole in general unless there is a hearing on mitigating and extenuating circumstances. So, we've seen two cases now in the past 20 years that have kind of questioned whether or not people who are young deserve certain punishments. So what a Roper hearing basically is that the defense is going to argue that, all right, Judge, even though Roper created a bright line rule as at 18 years old, we're making the argument that if you're 18, 19, 20, a young adult, that your mind is still fully not developed yet, and you shouldn't be put to death. The defendant in the Tops case obviously was not under 18 years old. He was exactly 18 years old, and so they want to get it back to the Supreme Court and have the court revisit it, and hopefully for them say that, all right, maybe under 21 can't be put to death.
Has there been an upper limit established yet at the Supreme Court level?
No.
So right now it's sort of just 18 in general, but it could be pushed, you're saying, to 19, 20, even up to 21, something like that.
That's what defense lawyers want.
Of course.
And that's what some people who are in the mental health world want as well.
Because they have their brains are literally still in development. That's the argument, right?
Correct. There's been studies, that show that individuals, young people's brains are developing until the age of 25. And the federal sentencing guidelines over the course of the past 20 years have actually used the age of 25 as a determining factor in certain sentences, not the death penalty, but other sentences, like years in jail on offenses for people under 25. So again, that's the goal here. They have no way to win this Roper hearing here in Buffalo. Just so you know, okay?
Right.
They can't win this hearing because a district court judge can't overturn the Supreme Court.
Right.
So they just want the hearing to establish a record for appeal.
Got it. I mean, this was an unbelievable case here in the city of Buffalo, and totally shocking, obviously, to everyone involved. You're saying this could potentially change rules down the road, laws down the road, or they just want this on the record?
Well, both. They want on a record, but they want it on the record for the hope that they're going to change the law of the United States. Because again, if first of all, now that the hearing is adjourned until after the trial, the only way the hearing is going to take place is that if they rule the death penalty,
Right.
and they put them to death, then they'll have the Roper hearing. Then the judge is going to deny it. And then they'll appeal the judge's denial to the Second Circuit in New York City. And then the Second Circuit in New York City will then deny it as well because they can't overturn the Supreme Court as well. But they will now establish a record now at the appellate division in New York City. And then they will ask for the Supreme Court to look at it. And the Supreme Court can say yay or nay, even on looking at it. They don't have to look at it. But if they do decide to look at it, well, now we got a ball game now. Okay, now we potentially have new rules, new law, not just for here in Buffalo, for the entire country.
Okay, and then what is the time frame in all of that you just talked about?
Years. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, it's years to actually put someone to death. It won't be that long, all right? But they'll appeal it. And like I said, it's got to go to the Second Circuit first in New York City. That'll take months and months, and then after they go through that, then they have to ask the Supreme Court to look at it. The Supreme Court will take a few months to decide whether to look at it, and then once they decide, then they got to put it on the docket. So we're looking at years.
And the trial right now is scheduled to start in mid-October with jury selection beginning in August. Do you think, this is a timeline that's been bounced around with the judge in this case saying several times, we've pushed this thing back quite enough. You think they're going to hold to that? You think jury selection could begin late this summer?
It looks like it. I mean, one of the reasons why the defense asked for the adjournment in the Roper hearing was to have more time to prep for trial. The Roper hearing was going to take a couple of weeks.
Right.
You're talking about, they were going to have to call in witnesses, the defense, psychological experts, mental health experts, to talk about the formulation of a mind of a young person. So they were going to call numerous witnesses. The prosecution would have called numerous witnesses. Right. You're talking minimum a week here, if not two. And so the defense said, hey, we need time to prep for trial here. We don't need a delay of 2 weeks here in the middle of our prep. So they obviously feel that the judge is serious and this is going.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting also that the timing of this in normal federal cases, I know that we've said this before, this isn't a normal federal case because thankfully this doesn't happen every day, but the fact that this Roper hearing is happening at the time, if it is necessary, is different from the normal course of business, right? Normally, it would be during and before everything starts, so we know what we're aiming for, basically.
Absolutely,
it's interesting.
The hearing was scheduled for this week.
Yeah, right.
And when the defense made the motion for the Roper hearing, they made the motion beforehand because they kind of wanted to know what they're walking into. Yep. But after thinking about it further, they asked, let's wait and see what happens here. Because again, If they don't rule in the death penalty, it's a moot point.
Right. Doesn't matter.
And again, they wanted time to prep for trial.
And the person or the entity that decides that is the judge in the case.
Correct.
And then if the judge determines death, then it
Oh,
gets
no. I'm sorry.
say that. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Forget
The jury determines
jury will
death.
determine,
The
thank you.
judge determines the Roper hearing.
Got it. So then if it will happen if there is a need for a Roper hearing, if the jury determines guilty and then there's death penalty hearing, death.
Correct.
And then does the judge in any federal case, does the judge get a final say or does the jury in that case?
The judge can only set aside a verdict in very unusual circumstances. I mean, you cannot set aside the death penalty determination is made by a jury.
All right, that's all the questions I had about that.
I think it's
Thank
going
you
to be
so much.
interesting to see how it pans out. I think
Yeah.
this judge, it seems like he's had enough of the delays. I think it seems like this thing is going to go this year, which is a long time.
Yeah, it is. All right, let's move on to the Savannah Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie case. So Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, the mother of the Today Show host. Savannah Guthrie was taken, it appears, from her home on February 1st. So the latest that we got over the weekend is a new video posted to social media by Savannah Guthrie. She's pleading it's never too late to do the right thing. Right. We also know a glove containing DNA was recovered about 2 miles away from her home. It is consistent with the glove that individual was wearing in the Ring doorbell video. And then the reward for information leading to an arrest is now up to $100,000. So that is the latest information that we have. We are hearing some reports from CBS saying that potentially the clothes that the person in the Ring doorbell camera was wearing are purchased from Walmart because the backpack apparently is only something that Walmart carries. So that's something they are looking into as well. Let's go back to the video, John. That was a huge break in the case, it appeared. They had to go through this back channel to get this video. Why is this video obviously so important?
Well, because now you have a prime suspect right in front of you on video. You have a prime suspect who you are able to determine, obviously, what they were wearing, the height, the build, the gait, how he walked, his mannerisms, going back and forth from the shrubbery back to the camera, back out. So you have a number of clues here as to a single person who most likely was involved in this. Again, you don't know for certain, obviously, but I mean, most likely this person was involved with her disappearance, and you have video, which is huge.
Investigators have also been using pretty interesting technology lately. Over the weekend, they were flying a helicopter very low using Bluetooth technology to try and have basically her heart monitor app, her pacemaker app, pick up somewhere. I mean, it seems like they're throwing everything at this. I had never heard of that sort of Bluetooth sensing technologies that they're using. I imagine they, especially the FBI and perhaps even the county sheriff to some extent too, are deploying all kinds of things that we don't even know about, right? We're only seeing part of what is happening with this investigation, I'm assuming, or do you think we really are seeing all that is indeed happening?
Well, we may be seeing or hearing about the majority of the things that are happening. What they're holding back is what the information they have, what they're finding, all right? I mean, just think about it. We still have no idea whether or not there was forced entry into the house. Not at all. So we don't know that.
Right. They know that, though. The sheriff's office knows that.
Absolutely. We don't know the condition inside the home, whether or not it was ransacked, whether or not there was a struggle. I mean, we know there's blood.
Yep.
So she got cut, obviously, but we don't know the extent of any kind of struggle or damage that was happening inside the home. Were things tossed about? Were things ransacked? We have no idea. And obviously, the most important thing that we don't have, information that we don't have, I'd be shocked if they knew this and didn't tell us. We have no proof of life.
Yeah.
Right. None.
Here we are.
3 weeks.
In a third week now, and we still have no proof of life at all. And so there are a lot of things that we don't know here. But they have been, pretty good about, telling the public what they're doing as far as investigative tools. They haven't talked about geofencing that much. So geofencing is what you when you establish a radius around the home and you try to pick up every cell phone that was pinged within a certain time period in a radius around the home. They haven't really talked about that much. They did that right away.
Interesting.
There's no doubt about my mind.
I think they have that.
Absolutely. So they know, they have an idea of every cell phone. Now again, you got to have your cell phone on, obviously.
Yeah.
But every cell phone that was pinged in a radius around that home within a certain time period, when this kidnapping or assault or whatever it is. That's another thing too. We don't know.
Yeah.
No, we don't know anything.
They have not. This is unusual. They have not identified and designated the crime yet. They haven't designated as a kidnapping.
That's interesting.
Assault. God forbid, a sexual assault.
Sure.
A burglary. Wow. They have not identified the actual crime in this case yet because they don't know.
Are you surprised too that there's not more ring cameras? Those are all nice homes in that stretch, right? They all have some kind of camera system.
Yeah.
How did this person get to that home? It's not that isolated, right?
Well, it is. That's a problem. There's not one street light anywhere.
None. I mean, yeah,
there's not one street light.
Good shot right there.
You look. I mean,
but going in and out of the neighborhood, I don't know.
No. They did a drone video of the place in the dark. At some point, I saw on here on the video, the entire area is dark.
Yeah.
There is not one street light anywhere.
Well, I guess
That's true. All these roads, these roads kind of wind back in this neighborhood. It's in the foothills of these mountains, okay? These Catalina mountain foothills, all right? And so there's not one street light anywhere in the vicinity of this home. And so, cars driving by, it's going to be tough to pick a car up.
Yeah. Let's talk about the types of tips that could be coming in, that sort of thing. They have fielded 30,000 tips. How does a local sheriff's company, I mean, they're working with the FBI as well, even go through that many? And what are you even, looking for? People are probably calling in saying crazy stuff.
Right, yeah, no doubt.
What are you looking for? What's going to stand out amongst 30,000 tips?
So, any information that matches information that they have they haven't told us. Okay, so we'll call it reliable information. Reliable information is going to be is that they have some belief in a certain piece of information, and someone calls in and corroborates that to a certain extent. So what they're going to do is they're going to prioritize every call that comes in, and they're going to put the most quote unquote reliable at the top, and they're going to go through them. And what they're probably going to do is they're probably going to send a team of two people, an FBI and a sheriff, together. That way they can go out together, and then when they bring back the information, they each go to the respective agencies and tell what they found. Okay, it wouldn't make any sense to send out two sheriffs here and two FBI there, because when they come back with the info, then now they got to call each other up and tell what happened. Okay, so it's just better I hope you're doing this. It would be a smart thing to do, that they're sending pairs out, one from each, the feds and the sheriff, to go and literally track down and talk to every reliable tip.
There's a lot of speculation, too, about who this could be and the people closest to Nancy and so on and so forth. It's kind of like a law enforcement cliche or a stereotype, right? It's like peeling back an onion. You start with the people who had the most access, start with the people who were the closest. When it comes to the length of time that we're talking about here, now into 3 weeks, would you think that over the course of a normal law enforcement investigation by either the county sheriff and or the FBI, that if a family member was involved or if someone close to the victim was involved, that they would be able to get that situated and solved within a 3-week period? Or could a family member in a situation of whatever be so sophisticated that even though they're right there and they have access, it still could take a couple of long time to make this happen?
I mean, if you cover your tracks properly, whether you're a family member or an outsider, you're going to be able to prevent, getting.
But they've talked to
found
these
out.
people presumably many times.
Absolutely, and there's been no indication at all that the family hasn't cooperated. I mean, just think about the past 2 weeks here.
Correct.
There's been numerous searches
Yep.
of Savannah's sister's house. All right. They haven't needed a search warrant. They've consented to the search. So they've consented to have them come back and back and back over and over again to search the home and the surrounding areas and the car. There's been no indication at all that anyone close is involved. But you're correct. You start out with family members and people who are close to the victim because, in reality, that's who commits most of the crimes. Just take for example, the crimes that occur here in the city of Buffalo. 90% plus of all the shootings that occur in the city of Buffalo occur amongst people who know one another.
Right.
They're either acquaintances, friends, rival drug dealers. They know one another. Random people don't get shot. And
Generally.
and random people don't, necessarily always kidnap people or assault people. It happens, obviously. Everything happens, but the odds are in crime, individuals who commit the crime have some nexus to the victim. That's why you start out there. Yeah.
And I want to go back to the video really quick. Is there anything that maybe you saw in that video that us who are not in law enforcement, not in, the attorney's office, is anything that you saw that really kind of stuck out? I thought it was a little weird that he pulled some plants to try to cover.
So
obviously he looked very amateurish.
Yes.
If that's a word, amateurish.
So,
yeah.
The way he's kind of walking back and forth, the way he had his gun in front of him, in a holster that wasn't fit for this gun, grabbing the shrubbery and trying to put it in front of the camera. But for all the amateurishness that was done, that appeared to be done in the video, here we are 3 weeks now and don't know a thing. Exactly. But I will say, you pointed out in your update here that the FBI has said that the glove that they found looks similar to the glove on the video. Okay. Now, again, it looks similar. All right. But again, I don't know how common this glove is, all right? Just because it looks similar doesn't mean it's a glove, obviously. Yeah. And why, you think about it. Why would he throw it out the window 2 miles away? What? And he's got two gloves on. Why would he throw one and not the other one? Unless there was some kind of a struggle in the car, she threw it out the window. Yeah. Again, we can go off on tangents here of what happened here,
sure,
but
yeah.
It's very unusual to me that only one of the two gloves gets thrown out the window. And why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, that's kind of all the time we have. We have 1 more minute, and I am actually a little bit interested. Sorry, John. But sorry, things keep popping in my mind. Is there anything you've seen? Because the internet sleuths have been a little bit critical of the investigation so far. Is there anything you've seen in the investigation that you are a little bit critical of, or you're going to not really touch on that?
Well, I'll be critical of, obviously, the decision to open the crime scene back up initially. That obviously was, they would want that back. Yeah. The one thing that a lot of people are criticizing the sheriff on is sending this DNA to a lab in Florida, okay? But I can tell you this right here. Here in Buffalo, we use the Erie County. We had our own lab here. I'm a little surprised Tucson doesn't have their own lab.
Yeah.
It's kind of unusual, but whatever. Yeah. But these private labs, they can move a lot faster. Just so you know.
Okay.
And they can also, you can have less DNA material. They can make a profile with less material than a government lab can. Okay. So it's not that unusual to have it sent to a private lab. Yeah. Florida, a little bit weird, but
good information.
All right, John, thank you.